Hello, friends. Before the Shift From Within podcast was born, I was working with a very good friend of mine on another podcast called Creating Motivation. After my friend decided that podcasts just weren't for her, I recorded several episodes that were never released until now. These conversations may have been recorded some time ago, but the message is just as relevant today. What you're about to hear is one of those unreleased episodes. Happy listening. We're going to talk about 4 steps to define your ideal self. So, first off, just know it can be difficult to define your ideal self because what's going to happen is your subconscious is going to find ways to hold yourself back. In a previous episode, we talked about 3 ways that your subconscious is sabotaging you. And one of those ways is by predefining who you are, the things that you can and cannot do. And because of that, you are going to be less likely to do new things, to take on new challenges and explore new possibilities. And so it can be difficult to define what your ideal self is like because your subconscious is going to try to convince yourself that your current status is as good as it's going to get because anything else is going to require so much effort and so much activity that is outside your comfort zone that it's going to hold you back. So because one of the main things the subconscious wants to do is to look good, it's going to make sure that you are not setting goals that are way too high. So the other thing is it can be so simple to get caught up in your daily routines. And think about this. How often do you repeat the same day in, day out? You wake up, get ready, go to work, get off, eat dinner, rinse, repeat. Same thing over and over again, day in, day out. Maybe you can find a little bit of time to carve out towards your friends and family, a half hour here, 20 minutes over there. But for the most part, we're all living the same day over and over again because our subconscious likes to have these routines. Now, routines can either destroy us or they can empower us, depending on if we are reactive or proactive. Now, 97% of the population is centered around a reactive life. Something happens to you, you react in a way, and that's how you go about changing yourself. But so few people out there are going to do the things that are necessary to have a proactive life. And that is what really will set you apart. So in this episode, what we're going to do is define your ideal self. So we'll go over 4 steps on how to do that. And I'm telling you, once I did this, it just transformed my life. I went from just kind of being in, like I mentioned, that routine of daily life that I didn't know myself. What are the things that I want to accomplish and how do I go about doing that? So I did this exercise and it just completely turned my world around. And so I wanted to share this with you. For those of you who are following me on Facebook, facebook.com, Rohila. This is my first live stream. And again, like I mentioned before, I don't even know if it's working or not. So I don't think it is, but you know what? Doesn't matter because I'm going to do it anyways. So let's work on defining yourself. So step 1 on how to define your ideal self. What you need to do is write down all the traits that person has. So just the best way of doing this is by taking an external viewpoint of your life. So by getting out of your subconscious, out of your current thought process, out of the current way you do things, that is going to be the first step, is separate yourself and write down all the traits that your ideal self has. What do you look like? What do you talk like? What is your health like? What's the kind of house you're living at? What do you do for a living, etc.? These are all things that are definitive, things that you can look and say, these are the characteristics, these are the traits that this ideal version of me has. So again, what do I look like? Think about your health. What are you dressing like? What kind of car do you drive? How do you talk? Do you have an expanded vocabulary or do you have a more common vocabulary? Do you speak really low with a deep voice? Or do you speak really fast with a higher pitched voice? What kind of a house do you live in? Are you living in a single bedroom studio, or do you live in a mansion? Again, do not restrict yourself with this. This is your ideal self. And when you're talking about your ideal self, when you're talking about designing your life, you cannot think about limitations. Once you have that list, the next thing you want to do is make a list of what that person would do every day. Now, this can be very challenging, admittedly. And for me, it was, because it's so simple to say exactly what I'm doing right now are the things that are going to get me there. And the truth is, no, they're not. You are not living an above average life because you have decided to do things that are more comfortable for you rather than doing things that are not comfortable for you. So in order to know what are some things that you have to change, you have to list what some things are that your ideal self would have. So what is your diet like? What kind of exercise does that person do? What kind of books are that person? What kind of books does that person read? What's the amount of television that person watches? What are some of the hobbies that this person has? Again, what you're talking about is your ideal self. So if you're saying your ideal self is very healthy, then you can't talk about going to Taco Bell every single day. And for me, that was one of the most difficult things. For anyone who even remotely knows me knows about me and Taco Bell. But I realized that my ideal self, health-wise, diet-wise, would not be eating at Taco Bell every day. And that was a very sad realization for Rohit. But again, you want to make a detailed list of what that person would do every day. What time would they wake up? When would they go to sleep? When would they be eating their meals? How much exercise would they get? When would they exercise? What kind of books would they read? How long do they take a shower? Every single thing is as detailed as you can possibly make it. So again, so far what we've done is you've made a list of your ideal traits, and now you've made a list of what that ideal person would do every day. The next step is kind of fun, and that is that you have to give that person an existence, because what you're doing is you've defined your ideal self and the traits that person has. Well, guess what? That person is now your competition. That is what drives us. See, when you play sports, you know who your competition is. When you are at work, you know what the competition is. It's your peers. It's your goals that you have defined from your manager. When it comes to life, you don't have that situation. That scenario just doesn't exist. You don't know what to do because you don't know who to compare yourself with. One of my main taglines is hustle every day. Hustle against who you were yesterday every day. So again, hustle against who you were yesterday every day. So if you can continuously improve on who you were yesterday, that is what's going to set you apart. And by defining this person that is your competition, now all of a sudden it has a place where you can compare yourself with. So find a picture of someone that fits that ideal lifestyle or that ideal health or the ideal wealth that you're looking for. If you want to find a picture of yourself, that's fine too, but find a picture where you are in your ideal situation. Go dream building. Go out to the richest neighborhoods where you live and take a picture of yourself in front of a mansion. Go in, and if you want to have a large library, take a picture of yourself at the library with just tons of books behind you. If you want to be healthy, take a picture of yourself at the gym. There's so many things you can do to help define who this person is. Next, give this person a name. Okay, this one's kind of fun. Define that person as your arch nemesis. This is the anti-Rohit, the anti-current Rohit. This is the ideal Rohit, whatever the case is. But by defining who that person is and giving them a name and the way that they look, now all of a sudden you have a visualization of who can, you have a visual representation of who you can take out your, not frustrations, but really target your, how do I want to say this? You want to have a way of expressing yourself by defining a target so that you know on those moments where you are trying to find motivation and you see this person, that's going to give you the internal burn, the desire to move ahead. And now here's the thing. Always ask yourself, what would that person be doing right now? How would they be hustling? So if you are laying in bed before you go to sleep and you're just scrolling through TikTok, ask yourself, would the ideal person be doing this right now? If you come home after work and you're just exhausted and you're like, I'm just going to watch the ball game, would your ideal person be doing that right now? If you are on your way to the gym and you talk yourself out of it, ask yourself, would my ideal person be doing this right now, or would they find themselves going to the gym? Always ask yourself, what would the ideal person be doing right now? Those are the 4 things that you can do, the 4 steps to help define your ideal self. Again, 1, describe the traits that this person has. 2, create a list of the things that that person would do every day. 3, understand that that person is your competition, and what you want to do is then give that person a name and an identity. And then finally, 4, map it out to track your progress. Losers are the ones who don't keep score. Winners keep score. Think about this. If you're watching a basketball game and it didn't matter who had the most points at the end, would you watch it? Would it be exciting? Would the basketball players themselves have anything to drive towards, anything to hustle for? Winners keep score, something that Kyle Reed says all the time. Winners keep score, and you have to as well. So by defining those traits and defining the things that that person would do every day, you know how to keep score. That's the way you're going to find out if you're successful or not. And again, continuously ask yourself, what would that person be doing right now? How would they be hustling? So your call to action for this episode is find a place around your house, multiple places, and just tape an index card or a sticky note or just something, and just write, what would the ideal version of me be doing right now? And what this is just a quick reminder to remind yourself, what are the steps necessary to help you define that person? What would that person be doing right now? If you are going to the fridge, again, to look for a snack, and you have on there, what would my ideal person be doing right now? And if your ideal person is a lot healthier than you are right now, then that's another reminder that you need to take the right types of action steps to compete against that ideal person. So again, that is your call to action. This has been another episode of the Creating Motivation podcast. So thank you everyone for listening.